Good morning. We're at a cottonwood camp along the Little Lost River in Sawmill Canyon. We plan to hike to the crest of the Lemhi Range, and as always, your company is welcome. Primrose and meadows are found along Worm Creek. As our shooting star and larkspur. I was planning on parking the trail bike back a ways, but this track is such good trail riding that I thought I'd just come up a little further. The Sawmill Canyon drainage that we're in provides some of the very best trail biking in our section of Idaho. In fact, this track that we're on would lead to the main crest of the Lemhi Range at Big Windy Peak. We'll be parking up here in just a little bit to begin our hike, however. On foot now, above 8,600 feet, the vistas continue to get better. We're viewing the state's highest peak, Bora. We just climbed out of a cirque, and now we're on a connecting ridge to our summit. The connecting ridge goes along to our 10,715 foot summit, which we will call Mt Inspiration. An interesting feature about Mt Inspiration is that it has two glacial cirques on the same side of the mountain. And we just came up this lower cirque, which shows good division between quartzite and limestone rock, and the upper cirque, which heads right off the summit of our peak. The west ridge of Mt Inspiration is a lovely grassy flowered lawn. We have a short scramble to the summit. Flocks and a feather from the state bird, the mountain bluebird. This I consider one of the most beautiful high alpine mountain wildflowers because of that wonderful, unique shade of blue. It's kind of a moss. I don't know if it's an anemone. We have to learn our flowers. So this lovely blue sedge grows in and among the phlox. The best growth of it I've ever seen is on Italian Peak in the Beaverhead Range. With a mountain goat on top, Mt Inspiration is truly inspirational. The first time I saw Mt Inspiration, I was on Trail Peak in June. A very foggy day and 6 inches of new snow, and the clouds cleared just enough to show this awesome north face, although the peak has been a fairly gentle walk up from the west. We have just built our summit cairn, and we will leave a register. Mt Inspiration, elevation 10,715 feet, main crest of the Lemhi Range. Rick Bogger, Idaho Falls, Idaho, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. And with an inspirational thought, the size of your mountain is determined by your perception of it. If you think it's unconquerable, then it is. If you think you can overcome it, then you can. July 20th, 1991. When I climbed 10,533-foot Trail Peak a couple of years ago in June, in that fog, I couldn't understand how it got its name. But after being on that wonderful trail bike trail that leads to the crest of the range, which Trail Peak heads, I can understand the name now. The trails were obviously mining trails from the 19th century. And there you can see some of the switchbacks, and that's actually Big Windy Peak, which really isn't a peak, it's just more of a plateau. But at this point the trail does gain access to the summit of the Lemhi Range. Mining was done in this area. This is the famous Spring Mountain Mining District, and that is Spring Mountain, or Sheep Mountain. Portland Mountain in the background, and Gilmore Peak. Yellow Peak. We're looking northwest along the crest of the Lemhi Range. Big Creek Peak at over 11,300 feet. Cross the Sawmill Canyon to Iron Creek Point and Reddish Bear Mountain. The Cimarroy Range, which has a few summits over 11,000 feet. We're looking across the head of Little Lost River Valley to the Donkey Hills, and that's the peak we were on last weekend. 11,611 foot. Double Springs Peak. It's the highest peak north of Bora Peak. And now I'm going to try, without a map, to name the highest peaks in the state. From Bora, we see Mount Idaho at over 12,000 feet. Mount Obsession. Leatherman Peak, the state's second highest. Mount Church, the state's third highest. Donaldson Peak. Mount Breitenbach, another 12,000 foot peak. Mount Andrus, over 12,000 foot. USGS Peak, Mount McCaleb. We'd have Wet Peak, Shadow Lake Peak, Invisible Mountain, the Pass Creek, Wet Creek Divide, Sunset Peak, and North Twin. King Mountain, Jump Off Peak. That takes care of the Lost River Range. Now along the main crest of the Lemhis, moving south from Mount Inspiration, Mt Perspiration. Two weeks ago we were on Umblebee Peak. Bell Mountain. The highest peak in the range, the state's fourth highest, Diamond Peak. To the right of Diamond Peak, 11,598 foot, third highest in the range, hardest to climb in the range, Riddler Peak. Mount Inspiration as viewed from the home of the goats. Looking across Birch Creek Valley to Scott Peak, we see the coal kiln road leading into the charcoal kilns. And right now we are at the head of Davis Canyon, which is in Targhee National Forest. Mount Inspiration and Mt Perspiration, directly across the way, represent the heads of Davis Canyon. So let's start heading over that way. I'm sure it'll require a little bit of perspiration to make it. The summit ridge is great mountain goat country. There we have gentle browsing terrain, and then here we have the quick escape route for the goat if necessary. With these warm winds, temperatures in the mid-80s in the valleys, there's hardly any snow left at this time of year. There's my pretty. And for inspiration, we'll look back. From inspiration to perspiration. Success in life requires both. Here's the perspiration part. Mt Perspiration shows an elevation of 10,693 feet. It shows as a firm elevation on the topographical map, yet there is no marker at the top, so we'll build a cairn. We do see an example of a geological formation called patterned rock. By the incessant freezing and thawing over the eons, the rock has formed a circular shape. Almost looks man-made, but it's not. The platy limestone on the summit permits us to build a somewhat unique summit cairn, very much as the Indians built on the west spur of the Grand Teton, the enclosure. Looking to Birch Creek Valley, we have a series of gentle, barely 10,000 foot summits. That beg to be climbed, I'm sure. Umpleby Peak. Meadow Peak, with its meadows on all sides, highlighted by the tundra meadow. Incredible Hulk. Squaw 2, Squaw 1, Lame Jake. The ridge connecting Perspiration Peak with Inspiration Peak. I think it's fitting that Inspiration Peak and Perspiration Peak are approximately the same elevation, because it takes about an equal measure of both for success. You could climb this peak from the Birch Creek Valley side, although the face is rather imposing here. You came up Davis Canyon, came along the East Ridge. It wouldn't be too bad. Davis, as I understand it, was one of the group of original miners in the 1860s that discovered gold in the Yankee Fork area, which brought mining to this entire region. If we retraced our steps back to the summit of Mount Inspiration and then down, we'd have two sides of the triangle. And with gray clouds forming, let's just do some side hilling and hope that the one side of the triangle isn't too bad as we head over to the West Ridge and the descent route down into Worm Creek Canyon. This tundra alpine lawn would normally be fun to hike, but we're going to have to beat a hasty retreat off the ridge. We've got a water spout fast approaching, and we want to avoid any electrical storms. Get down in the canyons. Later. Okay, in the summertime, the canyons are the best place to be to avoid electrical storm hazard. But look, in the wintertime, the canyons would be about the worst place to be. All that stunted spruce slash means just one thing: high avalanche danger. We'll do a little bushwhacking down canyon to the motorcycle as the rains begin. The ores of lead, silver, and gold that are found in this region would lie between the older Miocene quartzite and the newer Cenozoic limestone. So where these two rock types meet, that's a good place to look for the ore, right in the stream bed, which acts as a natural placer. The limestone and quartzite come together. But mining is luck, and luck would not be with us in this particular spot. However, we did have great luck on our climb today. The gold to be had will be in memories. With you along, there's no such thing as defeat. Thanks for your company. This is Rick Ball.